All right, today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be linguistic archaeologists. We're digging deep into the past to uncover a lost language, one that connects a huge part of the world. And get this, it was never written down, not once. And yet, its echoes, its ghosts are all around us, hiding in the very words we speak every day.
So, let me start by asking you a question. What do the words water, white, and two have in common? I mean, on the surface, absolutely nothing, right? Different sounds, totally different meanings. But believe it or not, they share this incredibly deep, hidden connection that goes back thousands and thousands of years.
The secret isn't in how we spell them or what they mean now. No, you have to look deeper, into their linguistic DNA, so to speak. If you trace each of these words way back through their family trees, they all lead to one single mysterious source. An ancestor so ancient it really is like a ghost in our vocabulary. And that ancestor has a name, Proto-Indo-European, or as linguists call it, PIE for short. Just think of it as the great-great-grandparent of this massive family of languages, everything from Hindi and Persian all the way over to English and Spanish. And we call it a ghost language because there are no books, no stone tablets, absolutely zero written records. We're basically linguistic detectives, and we only know it existed by piecing together the clues it left behind in all of its children. Okay, I know what you might be thinking. How on earth can we be so sure a language we've never even seen or heard actually existed? Well, it all comes down to finding the family resemblance. Linguists are like detectives, hunting for words in totally different languages that are just suspiciously similar. These little clues are called cognates.
The best way to think about cognates is to see them as cousins. You know, like how you might have your grandmother's eyes while your cousin has her smile. These words do the same thing. They share features they inherited from that one common ancestor. They are literally the linguistic DNA that lets us map out this entire gigantic family tree of languages.
And this is where it gets really cool, because you can see the trail so clearly. Linguists worked backwards and figured out the PI root for white was probably something like albo, po. And from that one single root, you get the Latin word albus, which is where we get the word album, because they originally had white pages. You also get the Greek word alphos for a type of white rash. The family connection, it's just undeniable.
And this isn't just a one-off thing. We see the same pattern again and again. Take the PIA root for water, aqua u. The Latin aqua is a dead giveaway, right? That gives us words like aquatic and aquarium. But what's really wild is that the ancient Gothic word for river, ahua, comes from the exact same root. Totally different branches of the family tree, but they all lead back to the same ancient trunk.
And this table, man, this just shows you the mind-blowing scale we're talking about. You've got one single PIE root, bur, which means to carry or to bear. And just look at its descendants. Sanskrit, ancient Greek, Latin, Old English, even Albanian. They all inherited this word from one single parent language that was spoken millennia ago. It's incredible.
So here's the really crucial point. This is so much more than just a cool word game. If we can reconstruct their words, we can actually start to rebuild their world. We can be archaeologists of a culture, using vocabulary instead of pottery shards, to figure out how these ancient people actually lived their lives. So let's look at our first artifact from this verbal dig site. The fact that so many languages have a related word for to plow, all coming from a root like well, that's a massive clue. It tells us that the speakers of PIE weren't just nomads wandering around. Nope, they were farmers. They worked the land.
Okay, Exhibit B. The reconstructed word for goat is egg. And we see its descendants in both Greek and Armenian. What does that tell us? Well, it's pretty clear they were practicing animal husbandry. They had domesticated animals. They were keeping livestock.
And then you have this root, deru. This one is just fascinating because it seems to mean tree, but also wood and even strong. And its kids are everywhere. Our English word tree, the Greek word for a wooden spear, doru, the Welsh word for oak. This paints a pretty clear picture, right? They lived in a forested world and they knew how to use wood.
So you start gathering all these word artifacts, and a picture begins to emerge. We see a people who farmed, who raised animals, who lived in a forested continental landscape. They had words for winter and snow. But here's the kicker. There's no single universally shared word for sea. This suggests they probably came from somewhere inland, far away from any large ocean.
All right, now if you thought that was cool, this is where things get really intricate.
You see, language doesn't just pass words down perfectly unchanged. Over centuries, the sounds themselves shift and morph, but they do it in surprisingly predictable ways. Linguists call these sound laws.
You can think of these sound laws like genetic mutations in speech. They create differences between related languages, but they follow a clear logic. For example, a P sound in PIE might consistently become an F sound in all the Germanic languages. And what's crazy is that these rules are so reliable, they actually help us prove the family connection, even when words look completely different on the surface.
Check out this incredible example. There's a well-known sound shift where an ancient gua sound in PIE regularly turned into a buzz sound in Greek. And that's how the PIE root for snake, angui, gives us the Latin word anguis, which looks related, but also the totally different-looking Greek word imbiris. Without knowing that sound law, you would never ever guess they were cousins.
One of the most famous of these rules is called Grimm's Law. It explains dozens of these shifts, including the reason why the P sound in the PIE word for father, ph2-tier, stays a P in Latin pater, but becomes an F sound in Germanic languages like English, giving us father. It's the exact same word, just spoken with a different historical accent that became permanent over thousands of years.
And once you know these patterns, you start seeing hidden relatives everywhere. That P to F shift is exactly why our word foot is related to the word pedal. A similar kind of shift is why heart and cardiac share the same ancient beat. Our language is just this amazing, tangled web of secret connections.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's that Proto-Indo-European isn't some dusty, irrelevant piece of ancient history. It's living history. And you, right now, are a part of it.
This ghost language isn't really dead at all. It's more like it's shattered into 1,000 pieces, and those pieces became Hindi and Russian and Spanish and English. It haunts our modern conversations, hiding in plain sight in our most basic words for family, for nature, and for the world around us.
Thinking about it this way completely transforms how you see language. It stops being just a tool you use to communicate. It becomes a living museum. And every single word is a fossil, a tiny artifact with its own history, telling a story of human migration, culture, and thought.
So the next time you speak, just remember you're not just forming a sentence, you are literally echoing the voices of ancestors who lived over 5,000 years ago. You're carrying their world in your words. And the only question left is, what lost histories are hiding in the things you say every single day?